back to Monday Morning Marriage Minute. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, you can send in your questions to oneminutemarriage@gmail.com. Today's question comes from Adam. Adam, thanks for watching. Thanks for sending in your question. A bunch of different questions. By the way, I can't get to every question because it's just, I just don't have that much time. But a lot of times themes come and I'll see a particular theme working through the questions and I'll try to tackle that. But today's question is a great question because I think it's something that we don't talk about. And in fact, if you're a couple and you're going to get married, a lot of times we do a disservice because we don't cover this. So here it is. Adam wants to know the number one key ingredient to having a healthy and successful marriage. Now, right away, some people are going to say, well, it's communication, or it's knowing each other's love language, or men, you want me to say it's a healthy sex life. Yay, healthy sex life. It's none of those. Those are outcomes of this key ingredient. So here's the key ingredient. Ready? Get your paper and pen ready so you can write this down, because we don't talk about it the way we should. It is simply this: hard, gut-busting work. That's the key ingredient to a healthy and successful marriage. Marriage is freaking hard work. I love a story about a guy who stands up and he's talking about his marriage and he says, I've been happily married 40 years. And his wife from the audience yells out, we've been married 60. And he says, yes, but only happily married 40. That is very much the truth in most marriages. I've been married 31 years. Happily married, about 25 years. 6 out of those years, if you add up all the time when we've had hardships, heartaches, disagreements, arguments, all those different things, gone through those seasons, it wasn't 31 years of happily ever after marriage. It was a lot of work. People will come into my office all the time. It drives me crazy. Listen to me. When you go to a counselor or you go to talk to someone, understand this. When you go in there with the mindset of this is really hard, so it must not be right. I obviously married the wrong person because this is way too much work. You're out of your mind. Marriage is the hardest thing you will ever do. If your son or daughter comes home, they tried out for basketball, they made the team, and after 2 weeks they're like, well, basketball's not my sport. Why? Well, it's really hard. I can't put the ball in every time. We got to do all these drills. We got to memorize plays. We got to run sprints. And then afterwards, the coach wants us to go to the gym and work out. If it's this hard, it's obviously not my sport. You would smack that kid upside the head. You said, what are you talking about? It's going to be hard work. You want to play piano, and after a couple months you give up and say, well, piano's just not the instrument for me because it's just way too much work. Yeah, it's way too much work if you want to be good at it. Now, let me brag for a second. People will come up and they'll notice my marriage with my wife, and they'll comment about how great it is. And that's wonderful to hear, but what they don't see is behind the scenes all the work that it takes to put into a marriage. You have to put in a lot of hard work. That's just plain and simple. No way around it. You don't get a great marriage by marrying the right person. So you jump from one marriage to another one because you think, I married the wrong person. That's way too hard. You get into the second marriage. Guess what? It's still hard work. Yeah, you have your honeymoon period and everyone's happy. But guess what? After that, it's hard work. And if you don't figure that out, you're in for a long journey. So it's much like a garden. I write this in my book that's coming out in a little while. You plant a garden, but before you plant it, you got to pick out a plot of land, you got to plow it, you got to water it, you got to fertilize it, you got to plant the seeds, then you got to continue to water it and fertilize it, and then you got to weed it, and then you got to keep all the animals away from eating it, and it goes into all this work. And then finally, they grow and you get produce. You get your corn and your strawberries and your cucumbers and your tomatoes and all these different things. And then you still have to go to the kitchen and you have to cook it. And then finally you sit down and you get to eat it, which takes about 30 minutes. So you put in all this time and effort for 30 minutes. But the good news is you never have to do that again. The garden will now just self-sustain itself and do everything for you. Wrong. You'd be a fool to think that. Every year you got to put time into that garden. Every year you're putting time into your marriage. There are seasons in your marriage, and every season has some work to it. You got to put in the hard work if you want to have a great marriage. Don't fool yourself. Don't deceive yourself thinking that it's the other person. So, last 2 thoughts. Number 1, work on yourself, not your spouse. Yeah, I know. Our marriage needs a lot of work. My husband, my wife needs to do this. No. Work first on yourself. Secondly, Talk to your spouse and say, what are areas we need to put some hard work in? And then do just that. Put the hard work in. Know that it doesn't just happen. So yeah, don't work on your spouse. Let them work on themselves. And number two, come together and pick out a couple things that you guys need to work on in order to make your marriage better. Because the bottom line is this: if you're not willing to put in the hard work, you're never going to have a great marriage. And trust me, the highlight of my life is a great marriage. But I put in the hard work, along with my wife. So, all right, Monday Morning Marriage Minute, we're done. Send your questions to 1minutemarriage@gmail.com. You can also check out my blog, some of my other things going on at garthheckman.com. And in a little while, my book will be coming out, and it's called Happily Ever After. So enjoy. Until next time, we'll see you later. We're out.